Hello everybody, welcome to another video by the YouTube Lab of Everything. Today we will be discussing metals and non-metals from grade 8 NCERT. So stay tuned. I have talked about metals and non-metals in another video, which is matter around us pure, grade 9 NCERT. If you would like to check that particular part out, it's the summary of this entire chapter. Please check it out. I'll link it in the description, put it up in the top right corner, and link it in the end screen. So stay tuned till the end to watch it. So let's get started on today's video. So let's start by discussing what an element is. A substance which cannot be broken down into two or more simpler substances by chemical reactions is called an element. Or you can another way to define element in a simpler way is an element is a substance which is made up of only one kind of atoms, and the smallest particle of an element is an atom. So that's how you can define an element. So a few examples of elements could be hydrogen, helium, carbon, potassium, magnesium, calcium, argon, etc., etc. There are 118 elements in the periodic table. An element, there are out of 118 elements, they can be classified as three parts: metals, metalloids, and non-metals. We will be discussing about only metals and non-metals right now. Metalloids will be discussed in your higher grades. Metalloids are basically a mix of metals and non-metals, their properties. So they would be a bit complicated. So you'd learn them later on in your higher grades. First, so in this video we will be only discussing about metals and non-metals. Let's move on to the properties of metals and non-metals. First, let's discuss all the properties of metals. Before we get to discuss about metals and then the properties of metals and then the properties of non-metals, we need to know a few important names: malleability, ductility, brittle, lustrous, and sonorous. Malleable means something which can be beaten with a hammer to form into thin sheets. Ductility means that the object can be drawn into thin wires. Brittle means that which can be broken into pieces easily, or by stretching or by hitting with a hammer. Lustrous means shiny, and sonorous, which means that the object makes a ringing sound when hit by an object. Now that we know these words or these important names, we can move on to the properties of metals. So these are the main properties which we have discussed about. We have not discussed about conductors. Over here, by saying conductors, we mean that conductors of heat and electricity. So whenever we say conductors, we mean the conductors of heat and electricity. So let's discuss the properties of metals. There are 70 metals wherein all of them are solid except for one metal, which is mercury, is a liquid. Now let's discuss its properties. So metals are malleable, ductile, are conductors of heat and electricity, lustrous, and sonorous, but they are not brittle. They are strong. They are very strong and they're hard. Now let's discuss about a few exceptions in metals: malleability, ductility, brittle, conductors, lustrous, and sonorous. Also metals are strong, they're very hard, but a few metals, which is sodium and potassium, they are soft, they're not hard. So that is one of the exceptions in metals. And metals usually have a high tensile strength, except for, again, sodium and potassium, which have low tensile strength because they are soft metals. Now let's discuss what happens when metals react with chemicals. In chemicals, we mean a reaction with acids, bases, and water. So let's get to it. Also, we'll be discussing about reaction with oxygen as well. So we'll be discussing the reaction between oxygen, water, acids, and bases. So let's start with oxygen. when a metal reacts with oxygen from air, so when we burn a metal, it's going to react with oxygen. So what it's going to form is a metal oxide, which is basic in nature. So when we heat magnesium, magnesium, it combines with oxygen from the air and becomes magnesium oxide. It is a basic oxide. So, and when we mix magnesium oxide with water, we get magnesium hydroxide, which is a base. So we know that it's a base by testing it with litmus paper or turmeric paper. So we can do that with iron. We can do that with magnesium, carbon. It's always going to be a base. Except for carbon. Carbon is actually not a metal. Sorry about that. Carbon is actually a non-metal. Next we're gonna discuss about when it reacts with water. When a metal reacts with water, it makes a metal hydroxide and hydrogen and gaseous form. So when we mix sodium with water, please do not try it, it's very dangerous. Sodium plus water results in sodium hydroxide, which is a base, and releases hydrogen gas. So it's already gonna be a base, so you're not gonna have to convert it into liquid form to test it as a base. Next, metals reacting with acids. When a metal reacts with acid, it gives salt and hydrogen gas. So magnesium plus hydrochloric acid results in magnesium chloride plus hydrogen. Magnesium chloride is a salt. It is neither acid or base. It's acid and base mixed together. Next, reaction with bases. So metal plus base would be again salt plus hydrogen. So sodium hydroxide plus aluminium would be sodium aluminate plus hydrogen. Can you tell me what kind of reaction this is? Check out my video. Language of Chemistry Part 2, and you'll know what kind of reaction we are talking about over here. I'll link it above and put it in the end screen and in the description below. Yeah. Now let's discuss about some uses of metals. So I've given you over here 10 uses of metals. Make sure you take a screenshot. First one, gold, platinum and silver are used in jewelries and ornaments. Second one, iron and steel are used for construction purposes. Aluminium and steel are used as utensils. Mercury is used in a thermometer. It helps to check temperature. Aluminium is used as in insulation wires. Aluminium foils are used as food wrappers. Silver foil is used in sweets. Zinc is used for galvanizing to prevent rusting. Iron is used in automobiles. Copper is used for making cable wires. Also, copper is also used for coating over iron so that iron doesn't rust. So those are the uses of metals. Now let's move on to non-metals. Now let's talk about non-metals. Non-metals are elements which are neither malleable nor ductile. They're brittle, and non-metals do not conduct heat or electricity. So let's discuss its properties. So they're not malleable, they're not ductile, they're not conductors of heat and electricity, they're not lustrous, and they're not sonorous. Also, but non-metals are brittle, which means that they can break easily. A few examples of nonmetals could be carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, krypton, xenon, chlorine, bromine, etc., etc. There are 22 nonmetals, and out of these 10 nonmetals are solids. One nonmetal is a liquid, which is bromine, and 11 nonmetals are gases. So now let's discuss about the reactivity with oxygen, water, acid, and base. So let's start with the reacting. So metals react with oxygen to form non-metal oxides, and they are acidic in nature. So non-metal plus oxygen results in non-metal oxide, which is acidic. So the acidic non-metal oxides turn blue litmus paper into red. So, a common example is sulfur plus oxygen, which would be sulfur dioxide, and if you mix it in water, we get sulfurous acid, which is an acid. Next, we will discuss reaction with water. So we should know that non-metals do not react with water. Non-metals also do not react with acid, and they also some non-metals react with bases like sodium hydroxide, but no hydrogen gas would be produced. So not all non-metals can react with base, only a few. So it's in the middle, and also they do not produce a hydrogen gas. Now let's discuss a few uses of nonmetals. Oxygen is used for breathing, chlorine is used for purifying water, phosphorus is used in crackers, nonmetals like nitrogen is used in fertilizers, graphite is used as a good conductor of electricity. Please know that graphite is an exception because it can conduct electricity. Also, another exception in nonmetal is diamonds, which is another form of carbon. It is the hardest known natural substance, but as we know, nonmetals are brittle, but diamond is an exception. Next, potassium is used in fertilizers, nitrogen is used by plants, graphite is used in making leads, carbon is used as a fuel, and bromine is used in dyes and pesticides. So those were the uses of nonmetals. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. The videos which I told you in the video should be on your screen right now. If they're not, they'll be in a few seconds and will be in the description box below. Please do check them out. Thank you, and I'm signing off.